Invisible change, visible progress. Sacrifice comfort, gain control. Work is worship, rest is rebellion. Obedience over innovation. Sacrifice faith, serve faith. Suffer in silence, prosper in need. The greater the exploitation, the greater the reward. Your data, our safety. More report, more peace.
You are definitely in the Neon Dystopia, and this is the Low Life Podcast. It's just sending you a dispatch from the edge, now that I'm no longer in Virginia. How's that going, Zero?
You know, I've heard about 20 cop cars and ambulances passed by my house today on the way to 495. I have a police scanner. I just left it off. I
think I saw a pic of the flag upside down at the Department of Justice. This is already and I liked it, but this is already better than Civil War, that movie. This is this is why I didn't buy that movie. I knew it would be dumber.
Yeah, I know.
Scum.
I'm here. Hi. I'm on my second beer of the night. It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, this is going to be a real good episode. Shadowlink, how you doing?
Hey, I'm Shadowlink, and I'm a full supporter of white slavery.
Yeah. You know, I'm not going to foghorn that one. I think
at this fucking point, we are way out of line. We need to be taught some lessons.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know. I'll try to.
Well, he's into that, you know.
Try to force a kink out of it or something.
Yeah. That's all that is.
Yeah, consenting adults, whatever.
It benefits me,
right?
Maybe not necessarily everybody else, but that's my kink. So,
right. It's just this human centipede of cucks.
Cuctipede.
That is an image, my friend.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
man, there's so many things in this show that I feel like could go on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to
human centipede of cucks.
Human centipede of cucks. The
t-shirt.
That's just all right. Well, so this is the Lily Fun.
Well, it's literally that part of the boys.
We gotta get.
Sorry.
This is a Low Light Podcast. Thanks for fucking finding us, especially that dude in the middle of the Atlantic. Shout out.
Nope.
Yeah, we don't know how you did that.
I zoomed in. You're not on an island either. There's
C-Lab.
islands.
It's a C-Lab.
You are. Yeah.
So C-Lab listening to Howlin' Mad Murphy and the Low Life Podcast.
Yeah. I mean, if you like this, I got DJ shit on Mixler too. So hey, fucking.
We hope your C-setting effort is working well for you.
Oh yeah, we're actually rooting for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So also we have a website, Neon Dystopia.
We do. It's neondystopia.com. We publish the finest fiction that is soon not to be fiction. We have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/neondystopia. Drop us $1 if you were so inclined. You pay for said writers, and at Zero, tell me what we were talking about last.
Oh, you want to do that now?
Yeah, do it now.
Okay. I'm waiting for this. Listeners of the Low Life Podcast, this broadcast marks the end of the coin ops regime. We, the coalition of concerned co-hosts.
Nope.
Come on.
Nope.
Wait.
You're doing that now?
That was the wrong one. That was the incorrect group, bud.
I feel like I'm not in a certain group chat.
Chairman CoinOps will have his day.
On my face.
So
drop us $1 if you're so inclined. It goes towards paying our writers. That is neondystopia.com. That was see, you messed me up because now we have to kill CoinOps. Patreon.com/neondystopia. Drop us $1 if you were so inclined. The other tiers are jokes, but if you would like to give us $50 a month, I ain't going to say anything.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody who is contributing currently.
Yeah.
As always.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keeping the lights on, keeping the signal going.
You guys.
Exactly. Yeah, we're channeling some real big two dog vibes. I don't want to get sued by Bethesda.
It'd be pretty funny if we did, though.
So yeah, real quick. In the news, apparently they're trying to get everybody to quit at the CIA. You know,
So
this like 14-year-old like fucking James Bond dungeon master shit is just.
It's a good way to put it.
It's designed to make us hear it and just be like, you know, like just dumbfounded, and it's just like it's just tedious.
Well, we have like a vision
what I
of
mean?
what the
Like,
CIA is.
I'm
and
not really overwhelmed. You have to understand.
No.
I know what this is. This is the whole Steve Bannon, you know, flood the zone with bullshit
Yeah,
tactic.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is just kind of like let it play out to a certain degree on our level. Like we're not in.
It's not like we
Fucking
can
government.
really do anything.
Oh, but like r/fed is like a federal workers Reddit where everyone like talks, and like if you want to see very similar to nurses, although I think nurses have been radicalized long before this. If you want to see like paper pushers and like stapler jockeys get like radicalized in real time, head on over there. Because they're putting up shit of like, we're getting emails to like, you know, resign or else, and we're like, nah, fuck you. You drag me from this desk. It's incredible. And also,
Well, there was that story from, of all places, the fucking Washington Post.
okay,
Federal workers, here's how to lock down your communications.
yeah,
Now, I want to talk about that just for a second because the article's behind a paywall. I really don't need to read it to know that's really fucked up to see as a headline.
Yeah.
In a, you know, this like one of the city's papers. You know what I mean? Like this is the kind of thing that you would like read about in a story where it's somebody like putting a sign up in their windows so that people who drove by knew what to do next kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like that's the spookiest thing I think I've seen in a minute.
sure. Because it's fully acknowledged that like Musk isn't a government worker, and now he has access to all of our fucking data, the federal workers'
think
data.
of the fact that like of the recent articles that like Bezos stepped on, and this one got out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that thing. Like, so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know, there's a huge vibe of like, yeah, sure, take your little precautions, you know, from these fucks because they don't care. They don't give a shit. Like the idea of government being public services, making things that like easier so that we didn't have to worry about them. Things that like we've perfected in some ways, like U.S. Postal Service.
Or doing things that don't turn a profit but need to still fucking get done.
Right. Yeah, why does the water company? We need
And
water.
we have so few of those, and they're trying to dismantle the ones we have.
Of course. I mean, their job has always been to like privatize or underfund until it fails and then privatize, and then we get fucking fucked.
It's just
cut the legs out from under it until people think it doesn't work and then kill it.
It's just a little funny that they're also doing that to the CIA.
Yeah, that's the one I was like reading that today, and I'm like, what is this cuckoo cartoon bullshit?
Yeah, and like if you do, that's the last like branch of the government, or like the last part of the government, arm of the government that you want to piss off, right?
Well like think about how fucked up does
like
it have
they're
to
the
be
most
that I'm
manipulative motherfuckers.
Sure. They've after all of those like left-wing governments they deposed.
Yeah,
they're being deposed by this like crazy
fascist homebrew government.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good job, guys.
I mean, just as bad. They're trying to shut down USAID and like say what you want about the capitalist machine. At least USAID provides grain for poor people in the world.
So
medicines for poor people. I have a friend who works at USAID. He told me he's on furlough now. I mean, like the last project he was on was providing insulin for Central America. I mean, like,
oh god.
Well, you know, like Musk has a very specific, particular beef with them.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I read the article a few days ago, and I didn't know we were going to talk about this.
The one that I've heard brought up is that
they were investigating
his fucking Starlink. They were investigating how his involvement with Starlink with Ukraine, and basically what were you doing, how'd that play out, who was involved, blah blah blah. They were just investigating what the fuck.
Yeah.
Because you're a private fucking despite how rich he is, he's still a fucking citizen of the United States, and they want to know, hey, what you doing? And that's what his beef was, from what I gathered.
Well, that's debatable.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, his student visa ran out. He's not here legally. By his own standards, he's not here legally. And
if you want to talk about the immigrants who are destroying this company, maybe look at the fucking billionaires first.
Right here, well, they're doing it in real time in your face and laughing about it at you.
Yeah,
and it's like, Trump's just this fucking oaf. He's just this like mob-brained oaf. But you have Musk, this unelected official, getting into the Treasury. He's got my fucking social security number now. He knows how much money I owe in school loans.
Yep, that's where the problem is, that everyone is basically like...
And it's like, well, this is over then. Like, this is done. Like, I knew it was done when Trump got elected, because it's like, well, no one stopped him when he did the crimes. So I guess, sure, let's coronate him fucking...
What everyone's saying about this is the sense of what Democrats are fucking doing about this, because, like, a non-elected official has all our data now. Mm-hmm. And again, like, I don't like the idea of having a government, but if I'm going to be living under one, it would be the idea of, like, well, isn't someone going to, like, draw iron and, like, hey, get the fuck on the ground? Like,
don't
what the fuck?
Well, it's funny. Okay, so all of this kind of dovetails with our topic today.
Oh boy, does it ever!
But not until the very end, because this ends with one of the most unrealistic things I've ever seen in cinema.
Yeah,
but
it's incredible.
Yeah, I don't know how this came up. I've been wanting to do this movie anyway.
Yeah, for a minute.
Yeah, but I like threw it on the back burner and stuff, and we were actually gonna do Robot Jocks. So stay tuned for that one. I'm real excited about it.
It's gonna be like it's gonna be so relaxing.
Full on.
And what's really funny is that when I was still living in Virginia, I used to go to the CD seller. Shout out to them. And I went in there because they had a decent like DVD collection,
nice.
Criterion collection, like all this shit.
Yeah.
And I went in there, I think I was looking for, I want to say like The Conversation or something. And they didn't have it. But they had this movie, which for $3.99. And this movie is 1998's The Siege.
I was 9 years old when this movie was released.
I was 6 years old when they
I think I first saw it when I was probably around like 11 or 12 on TV.
Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw it in the theater.
Let me tell you.
My sophomore year of college, I think I went and saw it in the theater as well.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have known. I mean, 98 was it feels like there was kind of a turning point in the year 98 for whatever reason. My tiny brain at that time.
We were children.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a turning away. I still liked, industrial music, but I was just really getting into trance and Gabber at the time.
Nice.
And then I discovered jungle.
Nice.
So, it's not fair to say I turned away. Oh, wait, sorry, I was thinking myself in 98. Sorry.
Well, no. Actually, Zero, that's awesome, because I kind of wanted to team up with you on that a bit, since we're like the old fucks. As of this, you hearing this, we're recording this the last day I'm 49 years old. So when you hear this, I will be half a century old, and that means I have acquired the ability to not give a fuck what you think. I'm going to wear that around my shoulders like a scarf, and just it's all middle fingers till the end. But like at that time, I think I was doing the same thing, man. Like I dropped out of college because I didn't want an English degree. I wanted to learn how to like write fiction. It's different. One's more academic, and respect to that, I just didn't want that. Yeah. And I started working in machine shops, and then I discovered, you know that movie, The Machinist?
You mean that weird autobiography they made of you? Yeah.
Documentary?
That documentary on that year that I did basically trucker speed and slept like an hour a night. And
oh, so you're the Trent Reznor stand-in.
Dude, you don't understand. When I saw that movie, it freaked me the fuck out. I've only ever been freaked out like that twice, and that was one where I was just like, get the fuck out of my head. Like,
fuck.
The creepy face dude, I knew who that was. Like, I knew that guy.
Yeah, it's Bill. See him every day.
I was skinny as fuck too, man. And it drives you fat shit. But then, after that, the 90s were pretty optimistic. Like, you had that ability to just kind of get a job and like do stuff. And
I was
able to like make a living and make rent at like shitty jobs.
Cold War was over. The Soviet Union was collapsed.
Yeah.
Tech was ascendant. We all had this shining, hopeful, like expectation of what the internet could be and what it could do for humanity. We had so much.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, so here's an example. Here's a sampling of a bunch of songs that you could have heard on the radio around that time. You would have heard Hell's Bells, Highway to Hell, Shoot to Thrill, Shot Down in Flames, Safe in New York City, TNT by AC/DC. Mm-hmm. You could have heard When You're Falling by the Afro-Celt Sound System featuring Peter Gabriel. You could have heard Alice in Chains' Down in a Hole, Alien Ant Farm's Smooth Criminal.
Good shit. That was a good one.
Yeah.
A lot of Madonna, I remember.
Yeah, the Animals, We Got to Get Out of This Place on some of the oldie stations, Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. Bare Naked Ladies, Falling for the First Time. Sabotage, Sure Shot by the Beastie Boys,
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these were killer. Speed Kills by Bush. Let's see, Smokin' by Boston. In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. Let's see.
That was still kicking around. Sure it was, yeah.
Yeah. Knocking on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan, Hey Man, Nice Shot by Filter. You Dropped a Bomb on Me by the Gap Band. Let's see, Knocking on Heaven's Door by Guns N' Roses. That was still getting a lot of play, that one stuck around way longer than it should have.
Yep.
Let's see, Judas Priest's Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. Stay with me on this. This is going to...
You'd hear like a lot of Soundgarden. You'd hear some Nine Inch Nails clean edits, especially in the later night. There was still like a good place on the radio for like actually listening to music. It wasn't completely commercialized.
Looking at like you had radio.
Oh my god.
Well, this is 2 years after the Telecommunications Act of '96, and so everything hadn't quite
fallen apart yet.
Well, or been swallowed up by Clear Channel.
Yeah,
and like all of Black Hole Sun, Fell on Black Days by Soundgarden, I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen. All of these songs, Chop Suey by System of a Down.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything by Rage Against the Machine.
Yep.
Sunday Bloody Sunday by U2, Disco Inferno. All of these songs that I just listed were eventually, a few years later, put in something called the Clear Channel Memorandum. Following the September, I'm reading this from Wikipedia, following from the September 11th attacks in 2001, and this will make sense in a second, Clear Channel Communications, now iHeartMedia, the largest owner of radio stations in the United States, circulated an internal memorandum containing a list of songs that program directors felt were, quote, lyrically questionable to play in the aftermath of the attacks. During this time, immediately after the attacks, many television and radio stations altered normal programming in response to the events, and the rumors spread that Clear Channel and its subsidiaries, that one's a hard one. Anyway, had established a list of songs with lyrics Clear Channel deemed questionable, and the list was not an explicit demand to not play those songs, but more a suggestion that they, quote, might not want to play these songs. It's a very mob.
Yeah, very
so.
But yeah, they basically included a bunch of songs that like kind of vaguely refer to open subjects intertwined with the September 11 attacks, such as airplanes, collisions, death, conflict, violence, explosions, the month of September.
We don't want to think
Tuesday
about that.
in New York City.
Why would we want to think about that?
Never mind. We're going to bring all of those things to the doorstep of some Iraqis.
WASH, a Clear Channel-owned station in Washington, D.C., reportedly played Kool and the Gang's Celebration while the memorandum was being circulated, which brought a polite, if reproachful, call from one listener who was assured by the station that the song's broadcast was a mistake. But yeah, so but for real, you could turn on the fucking radio, you'd hear all that shit. You'd hear everything, tons and tons of stuff, like Lightning Crashes by Live, like all this shit was on the radio. But I wasn't listening to that, like zero. I was going to places that we broke into with our electrician buddy and played repetitive electronic music while eating pills, basically.
Yeah, man, yeah.
We were Pac-Man.
Bang your head.
And it was fantastic. It was the same thing too. I was going to a lot more shows because I'd work in record stores and stuff, like kind of living the life. And it seemed like, I was able to burn these years because, okay, now it's time to get serious and like buckle down and try to get a job. And that's another episode about how that became increasingly impossible.
Yeah.
But instead,
some thoughts about that.
In the midst of all of this kind of weird 90s optimism, before Y2K mania really starts to click, we were just like living in the world of bog standard, the moon landing was faked shit. That's our level of like, conspiracy theory.
Yeah, like listen to some early Art Bell for some very innocent
It's a
conspiracy, aliens, supernatural stuff. It's. I mean, I'm into that shit now, but at 9, I didn't fucking know. But like, if you listen
you had
back,
you had to really put the work in to be into it. Like, you had to go to the weird bookstores and get the zines and the out of print stuff. And
there might be a BBS, but you'd have to go to those like a new age.
And it was more, and it was
but
more.
again, there's effort to that to find those BBSs to get into that community. It wasn't just out there.
Shops.
There wasn't like a History Channel special about it.
Dude,
Bar to entry was a bit higher.
I had to go to this gift shop and a truck stop to get Robert Anton Wilson books.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Those were the days, man.
Even in the early 2000s.
But there were BBSs and shit, but we weren't really... Like, that was like your buddy had a computer. Not everybody did.
Well, even in the early 2000s, there were like occult shops and shit you could go to get like your woo-woo shit before all that became like weird QAnon fascist shit.
Yeah.
It was things... We don't talk enough about like the death of subcultures and how they get subsumed by, QAnon or fascism or white supremacy kind of stuff.
Or the music industry or capitalism, but yeah.
Yes, that too, yes. But it's...
I mean, look at what's happened with the word woke since like the 60s.
Yeah.
The past like 20 years especially, it just... Oh, man. I don't even know where to start. But
we're mentioning all of this so that you can have this idea that like at the time...
It's the end of history.
The vibe was all right.
Yeah.
It my really... My strongest memory was New Year's Eve, I think 98 or maybe 99. But I remember watching the ball drop and I have a very distinct memory of a man wearing a black trench coat in the middle of Times Square on TV and making these announcements.
Yeah, that was me. I am the Hat Man, and that was my previous job. No, the point is like in the midst of all of this. Now, there had been like an attempt to blow up the World Trade Center briefly with like a truck bomb or something, or like
in like 90 or 92,
93, something like that. Yeah, it was like in the early 90s, but
it was basically like the thing in Fight Club. It was like a van bomb.
Or like this movie that we're about to talk about.
Like not to belittle like how scary that is, but in comparison to what actually happened later,
right? It wasn't like now.
Like the world's coming off of like Oklahoma City. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oklahoma City has happened. Waco has happened. Okay, so there is this kind of like really strange pushback.
But those were both white
starting to see. Well, but we're starting to see this kind of like people identifying with like the more vaguely libertarian aspects of this, where they're just like, well, you can't take away. If they come for your rights, they're going to come for my rights. None of them realize what's happening in the real world right now as we're sitting here. They're just unaware of the hypocrisy. But like back then, those were things that you would hear about on your art spell. Your other, late night freak shows kind of shit.
Fringe news, fringe events.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the midst of this fucking movie is released. And in the trailer, I always remembered this. So the movie is The Siege. It has Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce
Hell of a
Willis,
cast.
Oh, yeah.
Annette Bening. Fucking who else?
Oh, yeah.
Who's
the guy who looks a lot like Tom Jane, but isn't Tom Jane.
No.
Lance Reddick from The Wire.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah. No, we got him.
Wait, did you mention that?
The guy you're talking about, I think, is Mark Valley. You're talking about the younger, the Chin FBI agent.
He's gone on to TV, though, hasn't he?
Oh,
I believe so.
Tony Shalhoub.
Familiar.
Tony
Shalhoub
fucking kills it.
Tony Shalhoub, yeah.
One of my all-time favorites. I'd love to see him. He's great. It is across the board a killer cast. Asif Manvi.
Yes. I noticed that on this watch there. I did not remember that.
The guy who played fucking Gale is in this movie. Gale from Breaking Bad. Just for like 2 seconds. I think he like brings a report to Denzel. But like, man.
He's there.
It's a who's who.
In the trailer, the gist of this, in 1998, to see this trailer, there have been a bunch of these type of like techno thrillers that have come out. I think we've already had Crimson Tide. I think we've already had your Clancy, Tom Clancy movies.
Enemy of the State.
Your
Enemy of the State came out They're not the same year. Yeah, this is very similar vibes in a lot of ways, I think. But this is a better movie.
And this definitely it definitely had the look of this.
Yeah.
And in the trailer, Denzel has this line. You don't know when it happens in the film, but he's just like, he's talking about the attacks, and he's like, "This is New York City. We can take it." And the premise of the film is that there's a serious terrorist attack on like New York City, and all of us, knowing full well that thing had already happened at the World Trade Center, most of us had glossed over that and thought this was wild.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, there's no way. This is an outlandish premise and stuff like that. And it got kind of fair to middling reviews, but I remember really liking it because the performances are fucking great.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's really well written, too. It's tight. Almost too well written.
It's pretty tight.
The difference here is this wasn't just like on event. It was a series of events, and as it turns out, like without any spoilers for a 20-year-old movie, it's a series of cells. It's not. And it was kind of a big thing back then. It's like they're revealing this military concept that like it's not one leader commanding several cells. Each cell is an independent organism, and they all
have the orders. They know what has to be done. They don't.
It's adorable too, because like that's such. Again, there's so much shit in hindsight. Like
this movie pulled me out of my body.
It predates like it's right in time for like the idea of like decentralized cells of people doing things, but it also predates like I don't know when to talk about this, so I guess now it predates operator culture and how the U.S. responds.
Kind of.
It
kind of overlaps. It kind of gives us a look at it that we never saw before, because the only thing we ever saw before was like
it's interesting
Behringer and sniper kind of shit.
Yeah, it's interesting to see in 1998 what at least the creators of this movie would think the military's response to terrorism or martial law would be, as opposed to today we know we're like, no, we're going to make squads of psychopaths hack some people's heads off.
So we're not going to go play by play in this film. Okay, definitely try to seek it out and watch it. It's definitely worth it.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is extremely interesting in this is, okay, so you got Agent Hubbard. That's Denzel. He's an FBI agent in New York City.
The FBI Anti-Terror Task Force.
Right. Yeah. And at that time, that meant something wildly different than it means now.
Yes.
Back then, it was rare.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the 70s where everybody was just hijacking planes to Cuba, but like it was kind of more like
it's New York. It's New York. You're going to find a bomb on a train, and like it's made of like hot dogs or something. Like
it
happens every day.
There's going on in New York City right now that you never hear about.
There's so many like bombs threats that
this opens up with one. Like there's a bomb threat. Him and Tony Shalhoub get in the car. They're on their way there. They got to go see if they can defuse the situation, and then naturally the bomb goes off. But it's just blue paint.
It's blue paint.
Yeah.
And I like this part because
I like this a lot.
For the one time I've ever seen it, they were like, "Oh, it's across town. How long will it take us to get there?" All day, like with the sirens, and they run in. Like they realize, it's New York. It's not gonna happen.
And that's another thing. In addition to what this film is about and what it shows you, some of these scenes where they block off fucking intersections or are just in Times Square, I don't think they'd be able to pull off today without just being CGI and shit.
Absolutely not.
These scenes are crazy.
Yeah,
could not.
It makes me wonder if some of them are like sets, but.
Well, then they give you these long shots.
Yeah,
they do.
And it's like, no, they're blocked.
They're actually there. Yeah, they're actually in fucking Times Square.
You wouldn't do this in Times Square today. You would do it in probably another city and just say it is. Like it's not possible anymore to do this, and no one wants to probably pay the amount of money. Like that's why Gotham City from the Batman movies is Chicago.
Right.
You know?
Always. Yeah. In my heart forever.
Forever.
But, all right. So another bomb, threat is happening. They get on the scene. At this point, they've already intercepted Annette Bening, who's like going through their crime scene, and she's being real cagey about who she is, who she works for, et cetera, et cetera. And they have this really great chemistry.
They've also been receiving messages saying, release him.
Right.
Which the movie opened up, I forgot to mention, rewind. Right. When you talk about operator culture, it was neat because in the beginning, it's like an extraction operation where they're getting some shake in the desert, and the operators are just like local people with U.S. material, but still, they're just locals. It's not like a bunch of freaking Navy SEALs, and they extract him. and they're just a neat little detail. And that's the beginning of it. And then you see him later in a cell, and Bruce Willis is walking by him with like a fancy suit on.
And
And
spoiler,
then the rest
that's the CIA's calling card back. At least back in the day. They still do this, I guess, not anymore. But the idea of like arming locals to do shit will play a large role in the plot.
As a small side note, I always thought it was pronounced chic, but now
I guess
pronouncing it as
either.
shake, it's just like they went to the desert to get some shake. It must be really good shake, guys.
Top shelf, baby, top shelf.
I mean, that's the way. If you're gonna go to the dispenser, you want to shave like $20 off. Like,
Yes.
We are
It's
American,
shake. It's fucking
and I'm going to apologize. But weirdly enough, this movie, and we'll probably talk about it more, not as Islamophobic as all the movies that came after.
It really does not vilify the religion of Islam.
It makes it
right.
quite
And
beautiful,
everything-
actually.
Wait, now hold on.
Everything that
We
these
have
people
to
do,
put
they
this
feel
in-
they make it like they give a justification for everything that people do that if you don't agree
they
with, you
humanize
understand.
everybody.
right. There's no. This isn't like.
This is not True Lies.
This is not True
No,
Lies. Thank you.
no.
That's exactly what I was going to say. True Lies is the one of the worst for this. This
and
film,
again,
on
it's
the
one of the
other
first.
hand,
It's one of the first ones where the War Machine pivots to the Middle East, like for real this time.
right?
Yeah.
Because it is I believe, Palestinian.
Yeah.
Who is kind of like this is who's doing this.
Dude, there
Yeah,
is
they're all
so much
Palestinian.
shit. There is so much shit that they like drop as
And this
exposition
guy,
in
this
movie that
shit-
it's just finger on the pulse.
Mhm.
Oh, well, the Sheikh he worked for Saddam.
Yeah.
He was a
And-
religious leader, yeah.
Yeah, like it gets really, really it's muddy. Which
The
is what makes
Sheikh.
this film.
It wasn't clear that the Sheikh was Palestinian, but our main character is Palestinian,
Yes.
and he was in a CIA-run network in Iraq that the
Right.
Sheikh was basically like the main guy for.
He was recruited from his followers. Like he probably taught a very specific interpretation of Islam.
Yeah,
and he was all the people.
and he's not like you don't see him doing anything incendiary at all in this.
Oh,
film.
he doesn't even have like if he's supposed to be like some sort of like leader of like some sort of terrorist organization. It's like he had very bad security. He's just a guy.
Oh well, the other thing that they kind of brush off is in the very beginning of the movie they talk about a barracks bombing in Saudi Arabia that the Sheikh had been responsible for, and that's goes even further back because you're not supposed to have foreign troops on Saudi Arabian soil, and it's
right.
And that you have to pick all that up like literally in the first 30 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, and recently I've watched it twice, but I think even the second time, it's this is a glimpse into an alternate reality.
Yes.
More than any movie we've watched. This one was it feels so weird.
I had assumed that this movie was going to have more of like an early 90s vibe where it's more like Die Hard or
More
Point
action-y.
Break or something like that. Where it's kind of campy. Somebody's got an Uzi and it's this generic group of like international terrorists.
It's so much more thoughtful than that.
Yeah, no, it's and like,
Believable. It's so much more believable.
Yes.
Wait, okay, here's another thing too. I agree with all of this. I especially like just watching this movie, having lived through, like you guys, the last 25 years. The cartoonification of the selected enemy, like we.
Oh my God!
up,
Yes.
Well, we grew up with the Russian. Like that was the big
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Me and Shadowlink grew up with the
Ivan.
Yeah, we grew up with brown people basically, but like Islam
Basically.
as the big.
And whenever they were
bad.
kind of between wars, they'd always throw like, "Oh, well, we're going to do Mexican cartels."
Dude, after 9/11, like most of the city was like, we have to kill every Arab we fucking see. Like it was.
I know. Oh, and
fucking insane.
We're gonna talk about this.
Oh my
for
God.
sure. Because again, like the parallels between like this movie and 3 years later are crazy.
It's incredible. Watching this, I'm like, especially later in the film with like the protests and everything, and I'm like, that's so like really sadly optimistic considering what I know was going to happen.
Here's the thing. At the time, a lot of the reviews weren't great. It was getting like 6.5 stars on I think Ebert.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And like one of his complaints was, and looking back again, putting yourself in the context of 1998, the valid ones. because there's like a character off camera at one point that's like yelling something. It's like, I don't care. You like kick them out of our country. I don't care as long as if they're brown, get them out. Kind of shit. Yeah. And it was one of those montage scenes or something like that. And
but the thing is, that mentality.
You have to understand at the time, Ebert is saying or I think it was Ebert, Siskel, one of them, in the article said something to the effect of like the enemy is always being presented as like brown or foreign. You know what I mean? It was at the time they were talking about like Oklahoma City was still kind of pretty fresh.
That was domestic too. That was a white supremacist,
right? And they were trying to get the heat. They thought this film was like kind of taking the heat away from the problems that we had in the country that we were aware of.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I found that to be really interesting because I'm looking at this movie 20 some years on, like, Jesus, this movie was optimistic.
Yeah.
It really was.
It was extremely thoughtful compared to what we have had since then.
Yeah.
I honest to God, at this level, I just want to watch Sisu over and over again.
But it was like, it was such a weirdly, I don't know, civilized film for what it was because then 9/11 happens.
Oh, and it is on a scale of like 1 to 10 for competency porn. It's like a 12.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, everybody knows how to do their job. Everybody's
so
super
refreshing.
professional. And there's like no sexism and no racism.
Nah.
And it's like, it's almost as though if you have a diverse group of people working on something, then they'll actually get shit done instead of the fucking assholes.
It was just about the
just
job.
knew a guy.
It really is FBI
in.
competency porn, isn't it?
It really was.
It really was.
It was really just about the job.
Yeah, and the CIA,
even
CIA operative is a
like,
lady. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, like,
I love,
and the thing is, she's not like negatively sexualized either.
No.
She's not a fucking psychopath.
She's actually.
not.
I just want to say, Annette Bening is a tour de force in this movie. She is fantastic.
She's
awesome.
a great actress.
Yeah,
and
she did really well.
Really good.
Yeah.
Like I like,
without even trying too hard. Like they don't try to make her look like sexy or like attractive, but she is. It just comes through.
Yeah, because she's a well-written female character.
She really is. Like I was
and
like,
that's fucking surprising. I feel like
the
at
ending.
least. But, I think the media that millennials grew up with kind of swung back in the other direction, and we got a lot.
I was like, how is this like movie
bullshit.
more like diverse and tolerant and like everything than like shit? I mean, I know why because 9/11 happened, but like this movie is incredibly tolerant. It's incredibly like more diverse. It's really strange.
Well, it's also
that's what I
doing that
remember.
rare thing that like when did Black Hawk Down come out?
Oh God!
Because like our
around the
big
same
thing,
time.
Fuck that movie.
Well, no, that's a complicated one too.
Yeah,
it's like I love watching that movie, but I hate that movie.
So inaccurate. It's so bad.
It's not even close. But
so
like,
bad.
we had this thing that ever since fucking John Wayne or before, where like we would go off to war and like shit would happen, and the movie wouldn't be about the war; it would be about look what happened to our soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that
even
now.
if we were doing the dirt. Well, that's what I'm saying. And this film wasn't that. This wasn't really doing that. And it has you rooting more for the characters than the fact that like Denzel's an FBI guy.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's propaganda, but it's like before everything was propaganda, and it's like actually pretty well done. Honestly.
Yeah, it's metered. It's pretty well done. Like it's the writing is there.
It is.
There's a great moment in it. All right, so the second bus thing.
Man,
these first two bus scenes are fantastic. Just fucking with your expectations.
Yes,
because you're like, oh shit, and then because in the trailer you see a bus explode. And this, in this one, the first bus is painted. The second bus, he is negotiating. Tony Shalhoub is translating. And he's like, could you let the kids off? So they let the kids off. And they're like, all right, well, you got some old folks on there. Can you let the old folks off? And the old folks, like, the doors open. They start getting off. And the fucking bus explodes right there. And it's
one of the dudes in there was like, nah.
Much better explosion scene than the one in
Swordfish.
Yeah.
That was
actually
the high
get
point
this-
of that movie.
Yeah, this not here. You know,
This one is terrifying. It's legitimately upsetting.
Yeah, no, I mean the continuity, the editing in this movie, and the cinematography is all fantastic too.
Yeah.
Like,
How did they get all that blood into Denzel Washington's eye? That looked uncomfortable.
yeah, and there's no.
And this is
So he gets hit with shockwave. He's like stunned. He goes
on his
deaf,
feet.
and
I
then-
mean, he's on his
flying
ass.
in his
He just-
face.
yeah, and then later he's preparing notes. He still has the same shirt on with some blood because some shit came out of his ears.
Mm-hmm.
And he's giving a speech to his team, and he's pissed.
And a really,
This
really
is one of
rousing.
the best fucking
It's really good.
Yeah.
This is one of
like-
the best manager because
Yeah.
he brings the stakes of what just happened to him to it, and then his nose starts bleeding, and it's such a
It's-
good moment.
it's such a
man.
good
And that's,
So good.
symbol.
that part leading up to the explosion too is fantastic. With
Oh.
at this part, we don't know a lot about Annette Bening's character. They've actually
Yeah.
taken her into custody.
Oh yeah.
But this is when she starts talking and just ratcheting up what's going on. She's
Yeah,
like, they're
she
not making
seems
any demands,
terrified.
are they?
Right.
It's very.
at that
And
point,
then
we know-
all the helicopters show up, and she's like, "Oh my god,"
Yeah.
they're waiting for the camera.
Because don't we know? Because did they arrest her yet, or is this
Yes, yes.
during
Yeah.
that after that amazing chase scene where?
This is the bit where they had arrested her after she had been
Yes.
poking around at the warehouse.
Because then they end up busting the CIA, which is really funny because they are This is where
No. This is before they arrest her because
because
they have
didn't
that
they-
chase
they
with
bring her in
Oh.
because
They
Yeah, they
bring-
arrest her at the CIA safe house. Correct. Yeah.
Yes, because they're torturing an American citizen,
or
questioning.
doing
in America.
essentially illegal activities
Yes,
for a
which
CIA
is where we
agent
get the
at
first-
the time to do.
Yes, which is where we get the first taste of law. It's
Like people
it's-
actually respect the laws in this movie.
Yeah, it's the idea of hey, you can't just kidnap and torture an American citizen someone. You can't just do that because even if he's not, what if he's on a visa? Who gives a fuck? You can't just.
Denzel introducing himself as Colin Powell.
Well, stay within the bounds. Yes and no. Because if you remember, this is the scene where they catch Asif Manvi at the airport.
Yeah,
He's got a shitload of cash, but it turns out it's just below the $20 below the $10,000 limit. But then
Yeah.
Tony Shalhoub throws an extra $20 in the case. So
Yeah.
Hey Tony, that's a shit move, bud.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It's one of those things where you have to laugh, but it's dirt.
Yeah, it's pretty dirty, but it's
well,
kind
you
of
know these guys aren't going to beat and torture him, but not so for the CIA, perhaps. So it's
yes.
Yeah. And I'll say I like this chase scene with Asif Manvi better than the one in Enemy of the State with Jason Lee as well.
100%.
Yeah, it's really good.
There's
I
a
don't know,
lot.
you
when
could
he
feel the
blows
stakes
his cover,
Okay.
it's a
Yeah.
beautiful moment.
okay.
Yeah,
It's good tension. I liked it.
I mean, the
A
guy
lot.
chasing him he looks like fucking Nazi propaganda.
Pretty much.
You could not have put a blonder, more blue-eyed.
The chin.
he
Chiseled.
looks
Someone
he looks like
dude
fucking
down.
AJ Blazkowicz is what he looks
Right.
like.
Someone who
No,
would look so
totally.
out of place in this part of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know?
Look out of place anywhere except for
Yeah,
Kansas.
yeah, it's true.
Mark Valley. Yeah, that's the guy's name.
Mark Valley. He's great. No, he's really good.
Hell of a
Well,
chin.
here's what's neat too is that when there are mistakes like this, they're human mistakes.
Yeah.
They are all plausible. This whole film is extremely plausible, except for two parts at the end that we will talk about.
Well, I want to say
One of them's plausible, but
they
pissed me
don't
off.
really fuck up. They don't really fuck up in the way that, say, law enforcement in real life would fuck up.
Right.
So
Yeah. And, well, here's the funny thing: they're chasing.
They do make
this dude
mistakes.
down. He
They're
gets
just
over a
rather
fence,
small.
and as he's running away from them, he just gets fucking shoulder shoved into a fucking
Black bag by the
Yeah.
CIA. Yeah.
Yeah,
And Tony Shalhoub's like, you can't admit.
that's
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know,
Good
like,
move.
what
Yeah.
the fuck?
And again, this is kind of like the era where none of these agencies would be talking to each
No.
other, and CIA is not even really supposed to be doing anything on U.S. soil.
Right.
That's-
They're
yeah.
not domestic.
And that's why Denzel Washington is I'm going to be the super FBI agent and bust the CIA for kidnapping and torturing.
This is when they
Even though we
they
know
track him
now,
back
even
to
though
the
we
safe
know
house.
now that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
CIA has fucked with American people.
everyone.
Yeah.
Did you see them bag the dog that guy was walking?
Yeah, they put a blanket over
I
him.
missed
That's what
that.
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, right up against the fence.
Yeah,
They just
that's
they
what-
put
that's-
a blanket on him, and I'm like,
was
that's
that's
a great
really-
That's
moment.
a smart idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, hold it right there. who did they consult with
Yes.
Yeah.
to learn how
Okay.
to immobilize a dog without shooting it? Because I'm sorry, I don't know if there's anybody at FBI or law enforcement that knows how to subdue a dog without fucking shooting.
Well, not
Right.
now.
Prove
I
me
know
wrong.
that back in
These
the day,
days.
you actually are supposed to just like put a blanket over a dog.
Yeah.
This might be pre-killology.
Yes,
Sure.
actually.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is
That would
that's
make
a
sense.
fucked up thing. I didn't even fucking think about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That would make a lot of sense.
But
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
would.
no, Zero, that's a good point because there's
Yeah.
several through this entire movie. Like you said in the first 30 seconds, there are details and methods, actions, that are performed in this movie that they obviously knew what they were talking about. They talked to somebody who knew what they were talking about, and they got this right, or as right as they could.
There were some things that
It's pretty damn believable.
Yeah.
Well, talking about
Nothing takes me out of the movie.
Yeah.
no, like even how the
Nothing takes me
CIA
out.
would like train locals to go fight somebody.
Yeah.
In and then like, hey, someone signed a piece of paper in Congress, and it's like, all right, bye.
And that's just part of the
Yeah.
plot. Whereas now, after 9/11, you would have an entire Oscar bait movie made out of something like this with probably Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Probably. I mean,
This
Yeah.
is just back in the day. They're treating this as common knowledge. Oh,
Well, they're just treating
CIA's
this as,
fucked
like,
up.
at this-
They
even in
fucked
1990
up shit, and they just throw that into the movie. And
I have a question. And I know at this point we've already seen, to all the brave fighters of the Mujahideen.
Yeah.
Would that have been something that would have been common knowledge in 1998 of like, the
Probably
CIA
still.
totally made the Mujahideen,
Probably still.
right? Because that's
Probably
I
the
don't know
only
that I
way.
would say common knowledge, but
it seems
like
to have a pretty
ban
good
pigs.
grasp. It seems to have a pretty good grasp on politics in the Middle
Because
East.
that's
or
what happened to the
US involvement.
what happens to these terrorists that we encounter in this film is what happened to the Mujahideen,
Yeah.
yeah, and the Kurds
And
who were
Al-Qaeda.
supporting in
which made Al Qaeda. Yeah,
Right.
in Syria in 2020, and we don't want to piss off Turkey, but I mean, that's a
fucking-
whole.
we did.
Yeah, we pulled out.
Yeah, we trained a
Oh,
lot of.
sorry. We
all
were
the
going to
time.
give you all this,
Leave 'em high and dry.
and all these schools and shit. But yeah, now we out.
Look at all the interpreters and support left behind in
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Like this entire movie could just be summed up with it's the CIA's fault.
Look at South America.
Yeah.
And it's funny, what you don't realize this movie is about is a redemption story. That's the craziest thing.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
kinda is.
I was glad. I liked the ending.
Yes, I did.
Actually.
I wish it had gone differently
Same.
in one particular. Let's talk about the next couple of things that happen. Okay, so
Okay, yeah. Keep going.
because there's 4 bombings, and the third one, they're all like they have just done a raid on a cell and put it out.
Yeah.
So they think they're good, and they're all going out for drinks in this
I call
wonderful fucking bullshit scene.
That raid was pretty. So first of all, we
That raid's
forgot to even
tight
talk
and
about
fast.
who is the New York FBI agent? The
He's
guy.
like in every goddamn cop show.
He's
I
so
know this
funny.
guy. I
Yeah,
cannot
I
remember
was
his
looking
name.
for
He's
it.
really good.
Yeah.
He was not a convincing pizza delivery person, though.
But, yeah.
He's been in a lot of things. I recognized him too.
What the fuck is his
is
name?
He kind of looks like Harry Dean Stanton.
a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit like
that's what I
Dollar.
thought it was
Sign.
at first.
Yeah.
I had this.
Oh God! Imagine if that was Harry Dean Stanton. That would have been an incredible role for him. Not, it wouldn't have been. It would have been funny, but
What? I love Harry Dean Stanton.
I love Harry. I love him. Gonna do Repo just for him.
Yeah.
But anyhow, he's hilarious because he's the one that takes they find out from the landlord that these guys are shut-ins and they only eat pizza. So he's like playing the pizza boy, dropping off the pizza to these terrorists. The SWAT team goes in, takes them, and this part is the only part that I laughed a lot at
The
this
pizza
part.
took me
box
out of it.
explodes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like
This part
he
took
opens
me out of
the pizza box. There's a flashbang grenade that blows up, and then I guess they're trying to show that these guys are not very well trained because this is a movie trope that I absolutely hate. Like a sofa is not cover.
No.
Yeah.
You cannot take cover
And
behind
they're not bulletproof.
a sofa.
No.
This guy's just not even looking, just blind firing over the sofa with an AK-47. And so, of course, they murder all 3 of these guys. But all of the SWAT team runs up and they have this very touching scene. It's like, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? It's like, of course they're all fucking dead. You just put 80
Fucking
bullets in his chest.
shot
Are you
his ass.
kidding me?
It was
Yeah,
incredible
it was
too
like
because it's
gangster
it's a
shit.
small apartment, and the idea of this dude was firing,
And it looks
like,
amazing, too.
it looks good, but this dude was firing at the SWAT guys, and I'm like, and you're going to tell me no SWAT officer was hit at all because none of them were hit.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
not.
that was like
With
That's why
fucking
you
AK.
never ever want your AK on full auto.
one guy emptied an Uzi, the other guy emptied like an AK.
Oh, come on. And the SWAT guys didn't get hit because they were not taking cover. They were just going for it. And I'm like, that took me out of it a little bit because it kind of reeked of like the nothing bad ever happens to the good guys.
Yeah.
I think the point of it was this is competence porn. They like these guys dealt with this with the Swedes. And that's why it sets up the party. There were no casualties. Okay, we can have drinks.
Yes.
So and it's fine. You know, I get it. I feel that.
Why are you having drinks with a CIA agent?
Well, because you told her you did the thing, and now you're getting to know each other a little bit. Now she's taking her, sweater off.
She kidnapped and arrested an
pants.
American citizen. Like,
This is where she starts getting super flirty.
yeah,
She gets super flirty. You know, she's like, "Oh, I'm fucked up," and she has a really good line where she's like pulling him apart.
Yeah.
She's like, "Yeah, you're probably like top of the class. Change things from the inside." And she's like real snotty about it and funny. Like I love it. It's a great little rant.
She obviously read his dossier.
Yeah, they've read each other's shit and they're talking shit to each other. It's cute. And then everything rumbles, and you get this great shot of them trying to get to Times Square, and it's an incredible sequence. Just because who could do that now? Just to arrange this, because they have to get out of their cars and run through traffic. Like, this is Times Square. It's shut the fuck down. And when they get there, it's a Broadway theater has been bombed, and people are just dead. Like, there's just bodies everywhere. There's a woman missing part of an arm in a fucking beautiful evening.
that was a good shot.
Yeah.
That was a great shot. The way it's obscured, and then she's and it's like,
and she's
And it's like
missing
a
half
big
her arm.
panoramic overhead shot. It's very moving.
Yeah, and it's extremely effective, and it's actually oh shit, and that's why they learned that this isn't operating the way they think it's going to work.
Yeah. It's
They have this meeting in the theater. Like, the theater's been bombed out, and then they have this meeting with the heads of various police departments, et cetera, et cetera.
Police departments, quote unquote, leaders of the
Anti-Defamation League.
Anti-Defamation League, leaders of the Arab community.
City officials, transit officials,
yeah. The whole
Port Authority.
Okay, I'm not gonna pull that apart. Never mind.
It's New York. That's why.
I love this scene.
Yeah.
I love any scene that would do this anyway. This is kind of like I don't know, like a movie kink for me. He's trying to give a speech, and then somebody's pager goes off, and he's still talking to them, and a couple other pagers go off, and a cell phone starts ringing, and he's trying to finish his fucking speech and really make this powerful point. The point that is made powerfully in the trailer is actually deflated here by just the sheer amount of phone. Oh shit, something's happened.
Yeah,
and they're off. Now
next crisis.
Next crisis.
yeah,
And this part really struck me too because so they had the big theater bombing. A high class crowd in the theater gets blown up, and the first thing I had to go back and check my details because it reminded me that this is fairly close to the Chechen theater bombing, but that was not too much after this, but around 2003. But that was across the globe. But in the story here, Samir, the main CIA contact later, gives this story about how his brother was convinced to become a suicide bomber, and he loved the movies, and he went into a theater and he blew up a theater full of people.
Yeah, Tel Aviv.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Tel Aviv. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's been going on for so long.
Yeah,
that's the other thing that kind of got me.
Yeah,
is how common it is, and also something that it was just, it felt different because again, I was a little bit more aware in the 2000s after 9/11, how gentle it approaches the subject and truly tries to humanize Samir. And what
in a way that you would not see today
for a suicide
bomber. Going to be Oscar bait. If it was your average tech thriller like this, wouldn't do this.
No,
honestly,
he would just be a brown guy who dies.
The first time I watched this, that did a great job of, again, spoiler alert. Later on, you don't immediately suspect what happens at the end, that he is actually our big bad.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, especially after
It does, and he has a good argument.
Yeah,
I don't,
right?
Not wrong.
Yeah, it's like Killmonger in Black Panther, except they don't have him really do anything stupid and out of character.
Yeah.
Well, even
To
take
like
back to
deflate it and
reality.
make him evil. No, he's not. There's this thing that Annette Bening says twice in the movie: the most committed wins.
That's right.
And this explained the stakes of these things way earlier than any of us were ready to deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, even like a more recent example of what kicked off Israel destroying Gaza is a bunch of guys came over the wall and took hostages because, much like these suicide bombers, they feel there's no other way to be heard or seen because you're not. Because
And at this
they
point,
keep
nobody
killing.
sees the suicide bombings either. Like this, it's just
No.
numb.
Yeah.
Nobody
No,
even
And
knows.
as of today or yesterday, Trump's talking about we're going to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East.
Oh yeah, I definitely heard him talking about that. He's proposing a U.S. occupation of Gaza, wherein we police the people, we clean up the bombs, we clear out the rubble, and I guess he's left out the part where we get the real estate too. But
Oh, he said that.
this is what he's proposing. This is what he's proposing. He's proposing
The
a
White House
commitment
had
of
to walk that
American
back.
troops.
To us.
Yeah, the White House literally had to walk that back because the entire world is saying Donald Trump called for ethnic cleansing, which is what that would be. Because,
Well, I mean, we've only been funding it.
yeah, we were funding it the whole time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he also, Samir has a really interesting line too, where he just talks about like who he's worked for.
Yeah.
And just how he's like, what did he say? He's like, the Palestinians have always basically been
used by everybody.
Everybody else, yeah.
Right.
And Annette Bening says too. At one point, she's like, "It's in some places, it's very lucrative being a Palestinian, like just the nationality."
Yeah.
And what else does she say? Yeah, if you're involved in the Middle East, you're basically sleeping with pretty much everybody.
Yeah, there's all these different organizations
Yeah.
fighting for power.
She has a lot of great lines.
Yeah.
She does. She's again really good really good dialogue, really good writing.
And they
Too well written.
they obscure like
hold on.
there's a mystery in this movie the entire time, which is what the fuck is Annette Bening?
Yeah, like what's her deal?
Yeah.
And when it finally comes to, it's after, okay, we got to talk about Bruce Willis.
Oh my god.
Well,
We got to talk about Bruce Willis.
Just to put a period on that, you find out later she's a kite runner, like the definition of, before anyone knew what that term meant, before the book came out or anything.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Well, he enters it because he comes in to check up on Hub
Right.
and the FBI. And how's the investigation going? Army's just here as an observer. Like,
Yeah, and this is
is
a really
after-
kind of sketchy scene too, because he's like trying to discredit Annette.
Well, right. And
Sharon.
why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Now,
knows more.
here's the fucked up part.
This
Like,
is after the meeting in Washington. That's where we first see him, because Hub
Yes.
goes down to Washington, and this
Yeah.
is also where we find out that Annette Benning's name was completely different. Like she's
Sharon.
Yeah,
with
Sharon.
an E.
Yeah. When
What's
CIA.
really interesting too is that we have this like Hitchcockian thing of we know this general knows where this shake is.
Yeah, because they
But
literally
Hub
show us at the beginning of the
doesn't.
movie.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think Annette Bening does,
Yeah.
but like can't say because
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
like low, not high enough on the food chain for that. But like, yeah, Bruce Willis.
But also, I mean,
and he's
it's
talking to
technically-
Denzel for a bit.
It's
and
Army intelligence that has him. It's the Army that has him, so the CIA doesn't quote unquote have him.
right?
Yeah.
technically, it's that like
And I think they go through a talk like that. Was like, do we have him? He's like trying to talk to Bruce Willis, and it's like, we do
Right.
not have him, but we
Right.
might have had him. Something like
it's like prefiguring Ashcroft's like the known knowns, unknown knowns.
Rumsfeld.
Yeah,
Rumsfeld.
Yeah,
That
it's trying to
shit.
skirt. It's trying to skirt around like policy and international law, basically.
Yeah, it's the fine art of like language as fuckery.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know how to use that as cover. We've seen a lot of that for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
But he does not.
Devereaux,
like-
right? General Devereaux.
General Devereaux. And there's talk of wanting to put him like in New York City to find these terrorists and kill them. And he is
In martial law, like
in martial law, and he is the first one to be like, we should not do that.
Yeah. he seems to be very against this idea.
Yeah, he's going to prove over the course of the film that he is a good soldier, but B, also like
Huge piece of shit.
Well, no, we know he's a piece of shit, but like the other thing is that he legitimately doesn't think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
He has nothing to gain from this. He talks about, he has a great line. He's like,
he has a couple really good monologues, but he goes on about like the army's a broadsword, not a scalpel.
Yeah.
You do not want this,
which was incredible to hear at that time, knowing what the military would create and do for the war on terror,
like an endorphin rush.
It was incredible.
It's like, wow, this is brilliant. I wish. I wish the military was like that instead of making our own units of psychopaths to hacksaw people's heads off.
Yeah,
this was almost like
rational.
Yeah,
like in a country that had Desert Storm trading cards from Topps.
Yeah, but this is also the thing I was saying is like this predates operator shit. This predates like weird spec op units. And like I know the Green Berets fucking existed, but like the idea of having like a specialized unit and then the culture kind of warping to big beards, tattoos. Oh, our general's going to gift us like tomahawks. We're going to collect ears. Like these are all things that happened.
I think it was like Tickleball. I think all the dudes that were really into those fucking rod and gun magazines and shit, they'd be getting into the back. Come join the boys in Rhodesia.
We were not even because it's like we were in Afghanistan for 20 years, and that's when operator culture like really started to kick off.
Because operator culture, did they wear Jenkos? Like they really operator culture.
It was just military really saw the difference that you can make with small specialized combat in big open areas like this, and they really pumped. I had a friend who was a National Guard Green Beret. He was over there for 6 months at a time, on and off for like 2 or 3 years. But they. Not even like you wouldn't think he's like a spec ops kind of guy, but like they really pumped up their numbers in those kind of units that have that kind of capability at that time. So there was definitely like a fetishization, of that sort of thing.
But
I mean, and the movies were starting to do that a lot more too.
Yeah. Navy SEAls.
Because watching this...
God, I forgot about that fucking movie. I legitimately forgot that movie existed.
Ooh, Navy SEAls.
Oh my God.
All right, I have to go to the bathroom and probably get another beer, so
carry on. You can just mute yourself and put that in the chat.
Yeah. Or just let them know.
Whatever.
But the audience wants to know when I have
whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
The fans demand it.
Anyways,
for $50 a month, you could come with me to the bathroom.
Hot mic. Wet mic.
That actor I was thinking of is David Proval. He was in Mean Streets.
Okay.
He was in The Sopranos, Innocent Blood.
He was in UHF.
He was in this movie,
the Weird Al Yankovic movie,
Nunzio, and the tagline for it is "You'll feel so good after you see Nunzio." I love this image.
What?
I feel like it's the kind of movie that I totally believe they could have just filmed. He did a voice in Wizards, that great Ralph Bakshi animation. Let's see what else.
Anyways,
Shawshank. He was in Pete Smalls is Dead. I just like the cover to that. That's cute. He was in UHF. Yep. I'm just like looking through his.
He is like an Italian version of Harry Dean Stanton, though. You're right about that.
Yeah, he was in The Relic.
That was a good
movie called The Deported. Yikes! And he was in The Star Chamber in 1983 with Michael Douglas.
Wild.
All right.
Yeah, I like that guy though. Yeah, but he was in.
Can I say the thing that I fucking wanted to say for like 5 minutes now?
I didn't know if you wanted to wait till Scum came back.
I mean, well, I just
do it.
So you need to go to the bathroom too?
But no, it was just about that speech that Bruce Willis gives, like in front of the Brooklyn Bridge, and it just seems so reasonable and like nothing that I would expect from any like military, like high-ranking military officer these days. Because he's like, we understand that the people of Brooklyn do not want to be policed by the army and shit like that. We really don't want to do this. And it's just like, it's almost compassionate. Like it's
it is.
Yeah.
He's like, don't make me do this to our people, but he goes and does it.
And that's where it's like he's the good soldier. Like he's going to follow orders and he's going to, find them and kill them,
Yeah, but it just seems so fucking reasonable. I mean, it's still like profiling and grabbing like every Muslim
Didn't he say
Americans
something? He's
out
like
of their
M16
homes.
is like a humble enough weapon, but like outside of your local bodega, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, he's
Yeah,
got.
that
They give
was
him
the
some
line.
good
I
lines.
wasn't
They
so
do.
good with. I don't know that. How humble is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a humble enough weapon when you're playing with an action figure,
Sure, yeah.
But when you see it in the real, where you go and get your Kit Kats,
Yeah.
it's a different vibe. I mean, I even know that.
I
just, like
very much
encountering
feel that.
open carry dipshits.
I very much feel that from right after 9/11 because that's when
Yeah.
the guns started to come out in the airports. There was troops
Yeah.
in the airports with guns. There was troops on the road with checkpoints and with guns. Like I had seen that growing up, living on military bases, living overseas, like in civil areas in Spain, because they had, the ETA terrorist group. So they have National Guard, Guardia Civil over there that patrol with guns. But like to see it on American soil was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see troops patrolling with guns.
You know what? Fun fact: still fucking freaky, man. Just as,
I'm
recently as like a few years ago.
so glad you brought that up because go ahead first.
I had some weed on me, and I was like going to. I was going, and I had my machete because I had just purchased it.
Sure, yeah, like you do.
But I had it in my backpack, and I was going to go onto the train. So, like, it still had like the tie on it, so I couldn't just like pull it out. It would get stuck on the, whatever. I had the receipt taped to it,
Yeah.
I'm getting ready. I go down like this first section of steps over in Ballston or whatever. Where was it? No, it was Clarendon. And then the landing, it was Homeland Security with like a bomb sniffer. And I'm like, today's the day. Yeah. Because here's a fun fact: don't turn around and go back up the steps when you see them.
No.
You're done.
Well, it's funny because
But they were looking for bombs, so they didn't find the weed. They didn't find the machete. They didn't even open my bag. I was
It's
like,
really interesting how normalized that became because living in New Jersey, you go to New York. I've been followed by cops on trains because I look like the way I do.
Right.
But it's interesting how quickly you kind of normalize because I grew up with it, and I was a kid when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And you just kind of get used to the fact that there's some National Guard and there's some cops with body armor and machine guns.
Yeah.
Because you go to
that
Penn
shit
Station.
was much different.
Yeah, you go to Penn Station and they're just there, and it's kind of like, all right, officer, blah, 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 it's.
I mean, there were still cops everywhere. Don't get me wrong, but there wasn't National Guard, there wasn't soldiers, and this
Well,
you
New
don't
York
see as much of that now as you did right after 9/11 because everybody was
today.
shit
Now
was
your average cop is like totally.
Now your average cop looks like a
loaded.
National Guard
Yeah.
kid back then. Yeah,
But when this came out, that was a shocking idea
Mm-hmm.
because everybody forgot that the last time this is the regular army too. This isn't the National Guard.
Yeah.
They have a really
They make
funny
a point
line
of that.
where they say something about how no, the National Guard is only for domestic stuff, and it's just like, oh buddy, just a few years from now,
Oh man.
just wait.
absolute opposite will happen.
How many of the National Guard were sent to the border?
All of them, not even
All
the
of them?
border to Iraq.
Oh, yeah, no, I forgot about that. Yeah, we did
they
send
were
a
using the
shit ton of
guard,
them.
and it's like, for what? Are we on the verge of speaking
Driving
Iraqi?
trucks and shit. A lot of guys.
Nah,
got
it
killed.
was just bullshit. But God, it is so weird in this film. All right, they start putting people in the stadium.
Yeah.
This part here, when they lock down Brooklyn,
Yeah,
was the most powerful part for me. You get into
Yep.
this
Absolutely.
area; it's a stadium set up with chain link
Yeah.
cages, which at the time
Razor wire.
on the field. Yeah,
was not a big again watching this is a very powerful scene. Another one for me from when I was a kid, again watched it probably way too early, but the scene with Harry Dean Stanton in Red Dawn where he's in the re-education camp in the town and the kids go to see him and he's screaming avenge me through the fence. This is the same exact vibe, but it's American citizens of Arab descent all being hoarded hauled up into this cage system.
I think what Zwick does really well throughout the course of this film is establish tone really well, because when Devereaux sets the army up, he's got his little pole barn, with his radios and they have a surveillance truck and the whole it's locked the fuck down. The film gives you the impression that there's nowhere anyone can go where these guys wouldn't be able to follow. It's like they even talk about one of these things is a sound garden, and it's just basically the park that has just like all of these listening devices set through it. Apparently, like these guys work really fast, faster than some of the dudes I've known. But like
competency porn.
But yeah, but the idea is he doesn't want to waste time getting you there. He just wants you to understand. No, these guys have the shit locked down. So when you see them trying to get away, or when they're when they're walking away from that, talking to Devereaux for the first time in his little his forward base.
Yeah, he comes in. He says, "I'm sorry to see you, General. Not here. Not like this. Not in that uniform."
Yeah. Yeah, and then when they're walking away, just the presence of the Humvees and the people, the soldiers walking everywhere, like the city has changed.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you too. This is really freaky for me going back and watching this again. This is again like '98.
Yeah.
I have friends who went and fought in Iraq, and one of them didn't come home. The one who didn't come home was a foot patrol leader in Sadr City, and he told me because he had seen this movie too. We came up together. We were friends in high school. He told me this is basically what they were doing in Sadr City. They weren't going up and rounding up every Arab young man of fighting age, but they would have lists of people they needed to go and find and take away. And any house that they came to where there were unregistered males, they would put their names on lists. But it's exactly this tactic that they're showing here, and exactly the tactic that I'm seeing described by people that ICE is using right now, present day.
Yeah.
And all that led to Abu Ghraib and other atrocities as well.
Which, again, parallels today, we're getting ready to send all these people to Gitmo.
Oh, we did already.
We know how well.
Yeah.
First points left yesterday.
That ends up for people. So
I'm extremely concerned about that one.
I think they have a McDonald's down there. They'll be okay.
It's a middle of the jungle,
dude. I don't want this to happen.
No, it can't be joked about.
These fools.
Yeah, it's really bad. I'm really afraid people are going to start dying of neglect. And when asked if they're going to send women or children there, ICE did not give a response.
because this is going to solve everything. This is going to make peace with everybody.
Well, it's the American tradition of sending brown people to camps where they could just die of neglect. It's not like the German model,
Yeah.
Where
they actively
again, it makes me think of this Robert Anton Wilson quote: "The biggest threat to national security is national security."
Yeah.
It is. We got too many of these fuckers running around doing shit no one's able to be watchdogs. They're not accountable to anyone. This whole thing that people have to know that ICE better give you a judge signed warrant. Who's going to know that?
Can't emphasize that enough, but yes, who would be able to tell what a judge-signed warrant
They print out their own warrants to make it look like they have papers that give them the right to do what they do.
Oh, right. But that's the thing. They're indistinguishable. And if you don't
especially to an immigrant,
unless you look
to a migrant, scribble anything onto that fucking thing, I wouldn't know what judge is this.
They dress as police. They even hide the fact that they're ICE, and now they're sending them to a place where the American people can't see, which is Guantanamo Bay.
And it's funny because people would need them to dress like the army in this movie to think that they were being occupied by their own government. But man, if you just switch the color up, if you get a little Rainbow Six customization about it, it's not the army anymore. These guys are fighting for freedom, but they're taking
ice
fucking
skin
neighbors away. Ha.
Yeah, that is an interesting detail I noticed too of how they really have to distinguish that they're the army because they look like the army.
Right.
When fast forward now, they probably look
more
way less. They wouldn't be obvious at all. They would obviously be packing, but you wouldn't be sure.
Yeah, it's more like fucking that Ghost Recon
operator shit. Yeah, exactly.
Shit.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You could wear your favorite baseball cap, but you got this 3-plate armor.
I do think that if martial law was declared, right, I think it really would.
Oh, that was the other thing too. Yeah, they had to call down martial law on Brooklyn, and they locked it and they squeezed it, as they said.
Yes.
There's incredible shots of all these soldiers and shit, all this material moving across the bridge,
and it's really neat too. When first of all, another little piece connection here. The main light armored vehicle that they're using there, the 2-wheel tank one, is the same one from Free Jack.
Mm-hmm.
It's a General Dynamics one. I forget the number designation, but anyway.
Yeah.
What you're saying about them changing the tone of the movie into that, the army is taking over now and all this stuff is in place, because it gets very like enemy of the state, very conversation at this part. Is when we're introduced to Colonel Hardwick, who looks like Agent Dale Cooper if he went into military intelligence. He really
He's a psychopath, yes.
I really thought it was Tom McLaughlin for a little bit.
Oh god, his introduction, the moment he shows up and he's like, "I am a liaison,"
and his hat looks so fucking stupid. It looks so stupid.
His beret.
Yeah.
I could tell you now.
Has a
Army
face
guys
for
hate
that.
Have you got any pie?
Yeah.
No, Army guys actually really hate the beret.
I can imagine.
Well, this is before everybody was wearing it too. This is just when like really the Spec Ops guys were doing the berets. He's obviously a Green Beret.
Yeah,
he skipped over a part, the part at the school.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't that what all the pagers were about?
That's what the pagers were about.
Yeah.
Okay, rewind a little bit.
Okay,
there was a lot in this movie. I forgot about
dense
this
as
bit.
fuck.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But it moves so.
And this is a brilliant piece of. This is that kind of competency point right here.
It is a fantasy. This movie is a fantasy,
yeah.
and this part especially, because not pictured is Uvalde, Texas.
There's a bomber. He's in a classroom. He's got a bunch of kids in there and a teacher. And we come to find out is he's just waiting for the helicopters and the media to show up to
blow this church or the school up. Yeah,
the school. Yeah, he wants to kill a bunch of people. He already killed the teacher.
Annette Bening wants to know what the firing device looks like.
She gives Hub like a look, and Hub goes into bullet time and just like charges the door and does a flip and puts 3 rounds right into the guy's chest. It's
amazing.
Very, very competency porn.
It's such and you know what? The funny thing is it's kind of like this kind of slow motion. It's not. It doesn't work.
It's not bullet time, but it is like slow.
It's a year before bullet time. What it looks like, what they did was they just took frames out, and then held them. You know what I mean? Like it. Yeah. It doesn't have the impact. I think just letting it go.
Well, that trope, like that
cinematographical.
Yeah. That trope has kind of died, I think, over the past 20 years, especially.
Oh, it's such a it's such a cop move.
Yeah,
it's the shoulder roll. Oh man, but the second he did it, I was like, I get it.
Yeah, it's what we would want. It's what we would want someone to do. But we know because we live now. We know
again in hindsight.
We know cops would just play on their phone while children are killed.
And then after this, there's a montage of everyone losing their shit. And there's actually a bit where Ariana Huffington is calling for troops on the streets.
Yeah, I was like, is that Ariana Huffington?
Send them now.
And I was like, that's fucking Ariana Huffington in this fucking movie.
And the thing is, there are a lot of social issues here that this movie does not address, I think.
It doesn't have time.
Well, because like I said, you have this, the FBI, all the government agencies are it's, there's still a hint of the patriarchy. There's still a hint of racism, but it's it's not bad. It's not how actually
it's funny
is.
You said that because it's also weirdly optimistic about people coming together in defense of their neighbors.
Exactly. There's a late part.
York, they do. I think they kind of handle this pretty well. Again, we're here at the cage part because you figure out that Tony Shalhoub's character, Frank, has been off screen for a while because they came into his house and they took his fucking kid.
His kid is 13.
And he's in the camp, he's in the cage, he's looking for the guy.
Fucking agent.
Yeah,
and he says my wife told him who I am, they knocked her down, they took him anyway. And he's some very strong language here, but they address.
He throws his badge at him.
It's powerful. I thought it was pretty powerful. It gets the message across very well.
And the line,
really good line,
right there. I'm not going to repeat it. It will cut you.
Yeah. It's insta-radicalized.
Right to say shit.
Yes. It's great.
You really get into his character too, because at this point they've already detained Samir a couple times, and it's really cool cloak and dagger shit where Annette Bening pretends she doesn't know him. It's very well done. Later in hindsight, you see it, but when you're coming into the movie, they present it, and so much other shit is going on that you don't realize. But they've already detained Samir a couple times, and Samir and Frank have like an animosity because of some stuff that happened over in the old country, and like it's not really expressly spelled out, but it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it was something about like the type of like his band of terrorists or a certain organization like ravaged his village that he's originally from.
Yeah. His people.
Yes.
Oh, he elbows them.
Yeah, he full clocks him.
Full on. It's actually one of the most satisfying versions of that I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Not because I think he's right in doing it, just because it just looked so like, wow, okay, fuck.
Yeah.
That
And
just
you
got
didn't
popped in the face.
100% expect Tony Shalhoub's character to do it.
At all.
Yeah.
At all. It's almost a jump scare.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh shit, dude, you're right.
But at the same time, you know, like
The resolution to this is really good too.
Yeah,
it's actually fucking perfect. Like back at the office, he gets Tony Shalhoub and he pulls him away from whatever conversation he was having. He's like, "Yeah, can I talk to you for a second?" He's like, "You ever hit another one of my suspects again? I'll have your fucking badge."
Right.
He's like, one of these days, you know, like Shalhoub says, he was like, you know, one of these days I'll explain exactly to you like what he did to my people. Yeah. And he's like, fair enough. But when I said, you know, stands, he's like, now imagine I said I was capable of saying something hilarious and laugh.
Yeah.
You know, like that whole bit is their relationship, everything comes through really right there.
Yeah. And Frank,
he's like, listen, I love you, but I will fucking come on, man.
Yeah,
you know?
I think between Frank and Hubbard, like Frank is more the loose cannon, but he's just like
he has
slightly loose.
Every reason to be.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, he's like such a true believer and so good at it, like just so good at his fucking job. Yeah. And then for like this betrayal to hit, of course, yeah, it's amazing. See, if they made that movie now, he'd be utterly radicalized. Yeah. They would just
he kind of is a little bit.
He's illusioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's right to be, but he doesn't go full on like, I'm going to put a fucking bomb vest on now.
No, obviously.
That's what the modern fucking take would
be. The shallow take. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm waiting for the next, you know, Mel Gibson movie after he does the sequel to the, you know, whatever.
Passion of Christ.
Passion of Christ. He goes on an acid trip or something. I don't fucking know.
I know how that one ends. It's going to be a fascist holy mountain. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be like the Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ?
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to do the sequel, the Passion of the Christ. I guess Jesus gets resurrected. He says something homophobic.
Spoilers. Hey.
He says something homophobic. He says like, you know, trans people don't exist. I love Trump.
Yeah, racist shit.
Yeah, then he just everyone should have guns. Then he just T-poses into the fucking sky and explodes. I don't know.
He's like Zardoz, just chucking guns out of his clothes.
Jesus
Bro,
Christ.
Jesus.
And then the next movie after that is the one where Tony Shalhoub gets radicalized.
Oh man.
No, I mean, but for real though, like this is an interesting film to watch as a like really strange snapshot of an era for sure.
It really is. I know we keep kind of saying that, but like especially at this scene, you know what I mean? Yeah. And this is the one that really got me of like his reaction to what happened. What'd you say?
Oh, especially considering how things have kind of been turning out.
Yeah, it's like considering what happened to his son. I mean, he does get like, you know, seduced back into to help him. You know, hey, we need your help at the FBI.
Well, yeah,
like you're my buddy. You know,
and they sell it. It works. 100%. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because at this point they're all like dodging army intelligence agents and shit too, because they all have guys following them and Hub confronts him at one point. He's like, "We're doing your fucking work for you, and you motherfuckers are just."
Oh yeah.
Because they find out there's another cell at this garage. We are around that yet, where they do the raid for that.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that shit show yet. Yeah. He goes in like, hey, I'm looking for this guy.
Yeah, to do some plainclothes undercover shit.
Yeah, and he gets this swagger. He's like kind of playing.
He's acting a little thug.
Little bit,
dude.
Little bit of
He
Training
looks
Day.
like an extra in a Mob Deep video.
Yeah.
No, it's actually for this. After this movie, I went out and bought a black M65 field jacket, just like he has in this movie, because it looks so fucking cool.
Yeah. Right on.
It's a good jacket.
But yeah, no, he's just trying to find this guy, and then like the other agents come in, and then one of the people they're questioning like has a grenade, like you do, and
Suicide grenade.
everything starts blowing up, and then the fucking army brings out
Like everything.
So many
fucking
explosions.
Cobra, and it starts
fucking
emptying
Cobra
rockets.
gunship.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, yeah, that's army. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
Suspects in there, blow it up.
yeah.
yeah. It's incredible.
Hey,
Again,
Bruce Willis told us.
yeah. Again,
we are a broadsword,
hindsight.
not a scalpel.
Seeing the army act the way you would think the army would act back then to a threat is amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Especially
It's
in a
pretty
crowded
funny.
city like that.
And it is very reminiscent of Black Hawk Down. And again, they say all fascism is the techniques of colonialism brought home to bear upon the population.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they blew the fuck out of that building.
That building is rocked, and somehow he gets out with the guy that he was trying to question.
Yeah.
And
The
this
military
ends
is like-
badly for him, and he's just like, "I'm FBI," and they don't care.
No, they don't.
So they take him in.
Tariq Hussein.
Mm.
Yeah, that was
No,
the other
Tariq Husseini,
unbelievable
I think.
part is that they get out of there and he wasn't just riddled with bullets like the two.
Right.
They had a very smart sergeant on the ground that day. Let's just say
If
that.
you're in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
building, we will put all the bullets in you. But the second you make it through, see.
Yeah. Good
Get more
non-commissioned
money
officer.
for fresh meat, I guess. I don't know. Like it's very strange. But basically, the way this ends is, of course, like Denzel gets
They
kind of cut
capture
loose
him.
from here.
They take him back to like a there's always like a
It's a
dark,
school.
wet room at,
Yeah.
the,
The
at the
shower.
bottom of the.
Well, it's a men's room.
I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
at
a
the bottom of the
men's
stadium.
Yeah, because it's part of a stadium or a school or something.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
stadium where the cages are.
Oh yeah. So they put him in like the showers, basically.
Yeah.
And they got him stripped
he's
naked.
nude.
When he
Yeah,
gets there, he's already being questioned by Sharon, by
And,
Annette Bening.
yeah, and he's
She's
just
she's talking to him in this way that like they don't ever give you like subtitles, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like not for this. And she's terrifying.
yeah because she's
now
a
you
fucking
really
CIA
what the
agent.
fuck are you doing? Like who are you? What are you
Because
doing?
she's speaking to him very tenderly.
Yeah. And like Bruce Willis is there.
Yeah,
And he's
I mean,
not
she's not
reacting to
enjoying.
this.
She's like not enjoying this, which I liked. Again,
Well, you can't tell because
Her eyes
she's
are red.
using like a very animated voice.
Just very
She is.
lilting, just kind of
Yeah.
like pleading
Well,
voice.
she kind of uses his
and then she gets her
with,
face spit in.
She uses
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
voice with Samir as well.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Later she goes, we'll get to that, but later she goes off on Samir. I mean, she is.
Yeah.
Smear takes two incredible hits to the face in this movie.
Yeah.
She hauls like the term hauls off and decks. The picture of it is Annette Bening right before she hits Samir.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy
she
is
like hunches down, like she bends the knee a little bit before
Yeah,
she like
she
arcs. Great hook, fantastic, absolutely fantastic stage punch.
I hope she hits you someday. I think you'd enjoy that one.
I would be honored.
No comment.
Yeah.
The
Goodness
scene he's
gracious.
getting is he spits in her face. He's being interrogated, and now they're like, well, he's not talking, and now they're just openly talking about torturing.
Let's
him.
have this discussion about where this enhanced interrogation goes to. I mean, they didn't
And
have
the
this
one
terminology
they're
back
gonna-
then, but
The one they're gonna settle on. It's like I heard water works really good. I was like waterboarding. Oh my god!
Oh, and that's
my
from the
God.
same guy who's like, who says to the hub, like, you better watch your tone or I'll decide
Colonel-
that you're Ethiopian. And
Yeah.
then Hub
Yeah.
says, you're saying this like if you think it's an insult.
Yeah.
Colonel Dale Cooper,
You're
yeah.
stupid enough to think this is an insult.
Yeah,
I love it.
but the same guy is like talking about like, well, we could use knives or water.
It's
you
messy.
Yeah.
Water. Mossad's been getting some great intelligence with water.
Yeah.
She's like, you got to do that with sleep deprivation, and we've only, we don't have 36 hours. And it's just like they're
Well, she's more
literally
like-
going through like
She's more like, yeah, dumbass, you need
Yeah.
sleep depth. What are you thinking?
yeah.
Yeah, they're
She's
just
really
talking about this because it's like, yeah, because that's what these people fucking
This is the
do.
menu.
And then like Hussein starts praying in the chair. It's really
It's
Yeah,
dark. It gets
fucked
dark.
up.
really
It's
terrible.
terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
and-
walk out of the room and you hear a gun go off.
Oh, he's screaming.
Denzel
Yeah.
gives this like great speech though.
Oh yeah, he does. Oh my god, yeah.
Man, and it's just like
He's like, "What are you talking about here?" Because Hussein is an American citizen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like it would make a Right, but like he's not on a visa. He's not like visiting the U.S. He's American citizen. He's an Arab American.
Yeah.
And now they are openly talking about torturing this man.
Yeah, he literally says that if you do this, then everything that
it's all bullshit.
Wore that uniform before you, bled and died for means nothing.
Nothing.
And that's the world that we grew up in.
Yes,
It kind of feels a little bullshit, even by 1998 standards, considering what the U.S. Army has done.
Yeah,
years before even 1998. But by today's standards, it's hilarious.
See, I don't think that wasn't common knowledge back then, or at least true. I don't think. I don't think.
No, it definitely hit differently.
Yeah,
it definitely hit differently because, well, first of all, you're dealing with the fact that there had been at this point so many movies about how shitty Vietnam was, or straight up just military propaganda.
Yeah,
and to see a federal agent pushing back against the military wasn't something that happened. This is just not a thing you saw in movies. I mean, I'm sure there's a few more examples, but this was supposed to be tentpole blockbuster film.
Yeah.
When it came out, and to see that writ large was really crazy.
It's crazy.
It was actually really crazy.
Even watching it today, now it what movie
hits different?
Yeah,
it definitely hits different with differently with all the different. What do you call it?
I've had 3 beers. You're on your own.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the Eddies are kicking in. So
yeah, I don't.
This is a sober podcast, for Christ.
What?
Oh yeah. So basically, the way
Nobody told me this is a sober pod.
Yeah,
what?
Oh, I still got half this beer left.
All right.
But anyway, so there's basically the way the movie ends is it turns out Samir's the final cell. He's going to strap up a bunch of bombs and he's going to walk out into a protest crowd.
Yeah, because this is the other
first crowd of people.
Yeah. A beautiful, diverse crowd of people
who are
coming together for their neighbors
and making points like, "What if we had done this to black people or Italians or Puerto Ricans?"
Yeah, basically marching to free the people that are
and it's that's really sweet. And
that's the most idealistic thing about
it. Is
movie,
something some people would definitely do in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that at the time.
Protests at Columbia and NYU, when they started the genocide in Gaza. I mean, you had to go and look for them because nobody was really showing you what was happening.
Well, the most idealistic thing about this is that this might actually kind of work in this world. It seems like it was working, but
I mean, it was happening.
Yeah. Anyways. But yeah, I think the most realistic part of this movie was that scene with Husseini and what the army ultimately does with him.
Yeah, that was some hard shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just your quick snap to reality for a second.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which leads to the best / funniest scene I've ever seen.
Yes.
But anyway. Samir, she manages to get Samir to a bathhouse, which is where he's like, okay, we're going to meet these other people.
And we should establish too that there's this ritual washing of hands that has gone on.
Yeah, it's a visual motif, and you don't really know what's like. Well, I mean,
that's
you would obviously, if you are listening to this episode and you watch it after this, you'll know what it means.
The backbone of the first half of this is like a procedural, and they're picking up all the clues and little pieces. Yeah. And also, they don't make it some huge revelation because a lot of it, they're like, yeah, I saw this on 60 Minutes. It does it, and you're not cracking the case, so they don't make it like a huge revelation. But it's really well done the way they wrote it into because none of it's just assumed, and it's not like. They don't dwell on it, but it's all you're informed if you look for the answers.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for this final reveal to be certain. You may have suspected it.
The first time I did not see this part coming. I really thought they were going to bring on some other big bad evil.
Yeah,
and it turns out it was Samir.
Right.
Yeah, because it's they explained it where she admits to Denzel Washington's character,
and you're like, why not?
She admits to
Denzel Washington's character, or before we reveal Samir is the final cell, that her
unit trained bunch from the Sheikh's followers. They started recruiting people to fight Saddam Hussein, to basically radicalize locals to their cause. Basically,
And
CIA.
she trained them in urban guerrilla tactics.
Yes, how to make
And she
bombs.
was there at the first bus to see what the wiring signature was, to see if she could track, is this the shit that I taught these kids?
Yeah.
Right.
And she's the one who radicalized them. Like, they fostered extremism in them to fight Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
But I think I mentioned this in the earlier show, 3 beers in. It was basically like, well, Congress had other ideas, and then we just fucking left them.
Yep.
And they all got slaughtered, and she regrets it. And but also, it's like, now you have a bunch of guys who are just who are not only are very dangerous, are radicalized into, because I don't know if they said the Sheikh like was responsible for the early terrorism at the beginning
For the bombing in
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but it's implied the CIA kind of fostered this.
Yeah. And the vibe I get from the movie is that this is like you're dropping the needle in the middle of the record on a much longer piece.
Yeah. Because now you have a bunch of guys who don't really have a cause anymore. A lot of their people got killed, and now the only thing they really know what to do out of desperation is to kill more people because they kidnapped the Sheikh. They kidnapped their leader.
Samir's got a job at City College as a professor of Arab Studies, and he's been signing these visas for these people to come over to build these independent cells, basically.
Yeah.
So is the big.
And one of the bombers was one of the recipients. And it's just it's crazy.
And it's cool because like at the end by the reveal, like you see everything. Like it's all clear. You don't need to like really. It's not that complex that you lose the thread at all. It's and it managed to throw a really good
blonde.
And they throw a really good action movie in there too on top of it, like not a wild or crazy or like unbelievable.
We get that one little last
notes that I kind of have like about. All right, so like Annette Bening is being held hostage by Samir as.
Well, I want to talk about that little that. I mean, it's a short scene, but like you get to see like the surveillance tech used against the FBI. I mean, we've seen this a bit.
Yeah, because they're dodging Army intelligence the whole time.
Yeah, and that's been kind of a thing that's been hanging casually over the whole movie. But now they have like like satellite images and shit like that.
Yeah,
and that's, I mean, some of the tech in this movie is wild to me. It's just crazy to see in like 1998. Like, man. I remember watching Vice and being blown away that they had like video call technology at that point. That was crazy to me. Anyways, sorry.
But anyway, so you got Annette Bening. She's like in a headlock. Dude's got the gun. He's panicked. He's wearing a bomb vest that he's pulled out, and Tony Shalhoub and Denzel Washington are coming down the steps and they're yelling. And everybody's yelling at each other. And this is the moment where I realized, oh shit, this is a redemption arc for Annette Bening.
Yeah,
like she feels guilty for what she's done. She feels like she's
rightly
responsible somehow, right? Yeah,
I mean,
and she starts now. This is the way it should have ended. She yells at them, "Shoot me, shoot through me, and kill this man. He has a bomb," and they do, and it works.
Well,
okay.
Okay, so I'm back and
what
watch
they
this again.
do instead is she peels away. Samir shoots her.
Yeah,
and then they put 3 or 4.
Yeah, they rob her of her agency just to make Denzel not look like a complete asshole. I think they probably changed that.
This was a huge miss for me. For the terms of narrative, for the terms of story, I think it would have been better if they did that.
Yeah, if they just tried to shoot him and she died, right?
Yeah, she has to at that point for the sake of symbolism and story.
It would have been so powerful.
It would have been, yeah.
And it still sucks. It's still a good scene. She dies well, and the very last thing she says is "Inshallah," which is like, all right.
Yeah, she prays.
Yeah. Interesting. And also, okay, so the very, very ending, we're not talking about it. Because basically what happens is the fucking feds roll up on the army.
Well, I want to say something.
And they all point guns at each other.
Oh my God.
And then he's like, don't you can make these kids murderers or something like that. Like, dude, they're in the army.
He's trying to say, is like, would you kill me? It's like, yes, because it's my duty. And he's like, well, I don't know if they're like, I know you you would be okay with killing us. I don't think they are, which is 18-year-olds with assault rifles.
It's very Keystone Copsy. They all kind of like burst in there, and they've all got this like long trench coat G-man outfit on.
This would never happen. This would never.
This is exactly like I watched this.
I mean, they would have like the blue blazers, but they all.
Fucking Chad FBI.
And we just he's like, okay, stand down. Like Bruce was like, stand down, and all the soldiers put their gun down, and we just looked at each other like, this is never fucking happening.
No, it's fucking hilarious. It was adorable to like, because I understand what they're trying to do, because he's like
very high tension moment.
Because
it was so dramatic, and that's what I wanted to say about the last scene too, with Annette Bening's death scene. The cinematography at that point, it's like the lights start flashing, and it's highly dramatic.
It's a bit much.
And that's kind of the same vibe that this has too. It's just like it started to lose me at that point.
It's incredible because it's supposed to be like the rule of law against like
the cinematography at that point.
The last bit
fantastic.
that you just described, Coin Ops, is basically the same resolution as Crimson Tide, which is so fantastic. Like. see that
it's
movie
just
too.
we're being presented with honorable men, and we haven't seen that in so long.
That's really kind of what it is.
It's such a
supposed
fantasy.
to be like, the rule of, in comparison to what was going on right fucking now, probably while we're recording, this movie's trying to present the idea of like, well, there are laws, and like there are things that you can't do against like people.
Yeah, there's a social
citizens
contract,
or people visiting, or like, and the idea of like, never considering the idea of what America will write into law or
Capital never comes into this. Actually, they don't. Really
Capital does not come into this movie.
Yeah.
Capital does not exist. In this film.
Yeah, you don't really see much in the way of classism, just like fascism.
Yeah, it's just fascism. But like Capital, which is like honestly the biggest motivator for a lot of the shit America's done and continues to do, doesn't really come up. That's
what I'm saying. It ignores so much of our reality. It seems complex, but it's actually a really simplified version of what we live in.
Yeah,
and also people are just so much pettier in this reality.
Well, of course, but this also goes into what I always say of like, well, if you want to enjoy like a detective novel or anything with cops, you have to understand this is taking place in a world that does not exist, where cops are actually competent and are good people.
This exists in a world where there's still the Twin Towers.
I was definitely looking for those in the skyline when we were watching it.
There's only like 2 or 3 shots. Like,
if you want
rarely.
If you want to see one where Capital definitely comes into it more, watch Syriana.
Oh yeah,
really good.
Sirianni's batshit.
Really good.
Don't watch the sequel, but watch the second one.
And motherfucking.
You know what I actually learned about Sirianna, because the director of that does that bullshit cowboy show Yellowstone.
Oh,
and the director Sheridan.
Yes,
he's not the director.
No, George Clooney directed Syria, didn't he?
No, Sirianna.
No, you're correct. I think he wrote it because they didn't let him. No, that's what it was. That's what it was. He wrote it, but they didn't let him direct it because he wanted Syriana, where he was the good guy.
Stephen Gahan.
It was going to be a very different movie.
I bet.
Because that's why Syriana 2 sucks so bad, and because Syriana 2 is like an action movie and not like the dark heart of.
And I totally just confused it with Sicario, which
not Benicio del Toro at all.
You fucked me. Oh yeah, I was talking about Sicario.
Okay,
that's what I was talking about. You fucked me up.
Syriana's got Matt Damon. It's got George Clooney. It's got
3 beers.
Matt Damon.
You fucked me up. Cornops.
And another radicalized teen, and it talks out why they're radicalized and how they're attacking the oil trade.
Guys.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a great. I hardly ever say this, but it's a great Matt Damon monologue where he's like, "Oh
yeah,
your second largest export is used goods. Like what? Yeah. What are you doing?"
It's pretty good. Kings is also another good movie for examining.
And again, George Clooney, 3 Kings, fantastic.
Yeah.
What's the problem with Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
That was a really strong one too.
Interrogation scene's fantastic in that.
Yeah, 3 Kings, weirdly enough, was like more accurate in like America's conflict over there than like a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Yeah. I lived on the edges of that. I grew up with that shit. We had troops on my barracks, first deserts in my high school gym barracks.
Yeah.
And in the first Desert Storm, it was wild. I ended up stealing like a carton of my dad's cigarettes to go and trade shit for them. I got like a couple jackets. I got a night vision goggles case. I got some patches,
Nice.
a jacket, and cool shit.
All right, well, let's
Pull it back in. Reel it back in.
All right, so
Yeah, back.
basically, this movie didn't do great. It had a budget of $70 million in 1998 dollars.
Oh wow.
It grossed $40.9 million in North America, and then 75 in other territories. Okay, but the reason for that is in the film's second week, The Siege showed the teaser trailer for Star Wars Episode 1, and motherfuckers actually did go to see movies in order to see that trailer, if they only knew.
And now we have trailer countdowns.
Yeah, I don't care. Roger Ebert gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4. Said that Zwick does a good job of crowd scenes, but called it clumsy. Bruce Willis won a Golden Raspberry Award for worst actor in his performance for this film.
What?
Yeah,
At the time, maybe, but in hindsight, not so sure.
Yeah, what year did Planet Terror come out? Because it's more or less.
I can see.
he was definitely trying to do a Schwarzkopf.
Yeah,
because they I don't know. But anyway, when the film opened. And I'm all reading this from the Wikipedia, so don't think I'm doing deep dive or anything here. The American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee came out against the film. Its spokesman, Hussein Ibish, said, "The siege is extremely offensive. It's beyond offensive. We're used to offensive. That's become a daily thing. This is actually dangerous." He thought it was, quote, insidious and incendiary because it reinforces stereotypes that lead to hate crimes. Now, he did acknowledge that Arab terrorists did in fact bomb World Trade Center in 93, but he also said that Arab and Islamic groups are upset by the, quote, the very strong equation between Muslim religious practices and terrorism. Thanks to the film, every time someone goes through the Muslim ablution, the ritual washing of hands everybody does before they pray 5 times a day, that image is the announcement to the viewer of the presence of violence.
You know what? And he is right.
Yeah.
And it would get, but he doesn't know at the time it's going to get way worse. And I'm not saying what was presented in the film is good because of what comes later. He is right.
They do make a point to express that, like, the Muslims and the Arabic people who come forward and, like, most of the people are not for this. They are not okay with this.
Well, we
also have that character who like stands up and he's like, "We of the Arabic Anti-Defamation League want you to know that we stay." Like that character really exists in that movie.
We are here to help in any way we can. Yeah,
and that's the second time that happens in the movie.
We're trying to say we're not racist for depicting this.
Yeah.
However, we're still going to kind of, sort of, and also it's the CIA's fault.
Yeah, that's really kind of the weakest point of all this.
It is
that we didn't have shit figured out like these people did. And we still don't. It's actually way worse than ever before. But
because this dude is saying this in 1998 after this film came out, and he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He has it's fully valid.
Well, this could have been a different film.
Very much so.
Yes. Director Edward Zwick had met with Arab Americans who suggested that the story be changed to mirror the aftermath of the Oklahoma City bombing when Arabs were immediately assumed responsible. This idea was rejected. Zwick noted that the siege's villains also include members of the U.S. government. True.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a complicated
It's very complicated. It still is kind of racist. It is a pretty fucking racist movie, but like not nearly like it would be today. This is weird to watch.
Yeah.
It is.
This movie can trick you into thinking it's much more sensitive.
I think the fact that it kind of ignores like
it doesn't linger on it.
It doesn't it doesn't really address the sort of racial subtext. It does not
the religious subtext.
It pays a lip service to our involvement, like historically, in other uprisings and overthrows, as we, it takes a long way around to show that like Annette Bening was part of the problem.
It's the CIA.
That the CIA is part of the problem.
And that's the same thing. It's, they do not really address the racial politics or any like sexual, any gender politics or anything.
Race, sex, and religion don't get a whole kind of deep dive into it, but it's also at the same time comes off a lot. At least, like you said, CoinOps tricks us into at least believing it's being more sensitive than perhaps it actually is being. And again, we're watching this in the hindsight of now.
And it's, that's why I say it's too well written, because the dialogue is good, the pacing is good, the way the scenes build is good.
It's doing a lot right.
Yeah, it really is. It knows what it's doing. Like the writer knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
but
I kind of want to see the Oklahoma City bombing version of this film from an alternate dimension where that movie got made.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where the terrorist cell is actually like a false flag and it's an Army Spec Ops unit.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's more realistic too.
Yeah.
Like,
this is a film that could stand a sequel or a prequel, rather.
Yeah, I think. What's the other thing too? It's like we never really got talking about Oklahoma City. We never really got like the the white supremacist version of this film.
Well,
where it's like the bad guys are domestic terrorists.
It just came out.
Isn't that Speed?
The Order.
Oh,
no, legit. There's like legit a movie that Jeremy Saulnier is a producer on. That has Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult, and it's a true story. It's about basically
The Order,
right?
Yeah. Well, Black Klansman was it's not as big as this film. You know, it doesn't have the same.
Well, I mean, you know what? Honest to God, Black Klansman might be bigger than this film.
Well,
has been
big
completely
as in
fucking memory hold
in terms of like sense of scale. They had a smaller budget in today dollars.
But no. This
there's
film,
also that other one with Daniel Radcliffe, I think. But that's it's all white.
I think I remember hearing about that.
I think it's like Imperium or something. I don't remember the name.
But no, I just this movie had always kind of stuck out in my head as one of the few films that had been memory hold from like say the Cold War like era, post Cold War, early. We don't know who we're fucking gonna fight all the time yet era, and like this one, like The Beast was another one that movie about the tank, the Russian tank.
Oh, in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, that one's nobody talks about that fucking movie, and it was really interesting. I remember this movie being interesting and being kind of like, let's see, 98. So how old was I? Like 20 something, 22? So I was still.
I was exactly 20.
Yeah, I was still a dipshit. I didn't know my ass was a hole in the ground, but I was absolutely going to the theater to see this with friends, and walking out of it being like, "Wow, this was actually a pretty intelligent thriller." I remembered that much of it, and then I hadn't watched it again until just when we were going to do this.
Yeah,
and it was like a fucking out of body experience.
Yeah.
Trying to imagine the context in which this was written compared to today, it was just like did any of the past happen?
Anything before 9/11, even Swordfish, is a fascinating insight to what the world.
Oh, it's on the
what we thought the world was going to be.
We thought the world may be. Yeah, I don't include the Matrix in that because that's far in the future. Far in the future that film takes place in. But like,
it was in the constructive half of the whole 90 to 100 year cycle that we're stuck in.
I see.
Well, we're in a 250 year cycle at the end of democracy.
Yeah, that too.
That's
man.
Damn it. Anyhow,
history.
I'm 20% as old as the country. So let that sink in.
So watch The Siege. It's a fascinating film from I don't want to say academic, but just like, man, if you want to see something that like predicted a lot, but also got some things wrong and also is kind of adorable, but also kind of racist.
It took huge
really neat
swings.
Snapshot.
It actually came close on a lot more than you would think. Given how things played out.
Yeah,
it does what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. But
it's
criticism
such an interesting.
Still kind of stand though. Like that whole Annette Bening getting shot by Smear sucked, and like the army's gonna put their guns down.
The FBI standoff.
Yeah,
it was adorable.
It's an interesting approach.
How does that work in Pokemon? Like, what's the FBI agent to the army general? Like, I don't.
Rule of law. It was ultra effective. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh God. Anyway, So that's The Siege. Check it out. It's rentable somewhere. Tubi might have it. I don't know.
Don't pay money to watch this film.
Yeah. If you do, like, find a hard copy. Get a DVD. They're
Yeah,
out
you could
there.
probably
They're
find
cheap
it real
as
cheap. Yeah.
I rented it on Amazon just to be more comfortable watching it in my living room, and it was like $3.99. It was definitely worth the $3.99 rental.
Yeah. This movie's marginally better than Turkey Shoot, so it's
Well, this one is well made.
It is.
That's the strongest thing about it.
Yeah. So there are some of these like long pull shots where you're, I don't know, blocks away, and they're showing you this like maybe like even from a helicopter sometimes, but you're seeing the intersections blocked off. They're fucking so wide.
Fucking
it's like
gorgeous.
This is elaborate.
Yeah.
And you get to see two different New York cities here.
And I'm not
see
like
the typical, hey, I'm walking here. And
It's
then you
also
get to see like what if fucking,
It's also kind of nice to see like real things and not CGI.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is like,
there's
this is
lick
my
of CGI in this fucking movie.
my turning point, my point at which I turn into a film snob. But like, it was actually really kind of comforting to see like the analog film grain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was.
So,
it allowed for like the edits were smoother.
Yeah.
Like there was just something very organic and human about it, as much as it could be. And it was a film. This is the guy that directed Glory, which has its problems.
Yeah.
As the Glory, the first fascist American film.
No, it isn't.
Modern fascist.
Not the first.
Not the first. It's the modern one.
The only thing I remember from Glory is like, I think Matthew Broderick is in it, and someo's head is exploded with a
and also
cannonball.
Denzel Washington. It's I for a war movie, I really like it because it hits on the better things I think you can take away from a story like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
They showed it to us in school when the teacher was sick. So
See, that's what's up. That'd be a good one for like kicking fucking class. I don't know. Yeah. The Siege is definitely it pairs nicely, I would imagine, with a nice bourbon. I don't know what the fuck else to say about this thing.
I don't know. We said as much as we can. What do we work? What do we got? What are we doing?
I don't even know what our next. There is no future. What are you talking about?
Well, we're going to talk to Oleg and see if we can have him back on because
that's right.
More stuff that's happening.
Really, has there been? I haven't been paying attention. I'm just waiting for this ice storm to hit. I'm reminded of that Bill Hicks
I have to wonder if you're talking about police kicking indoors or a weather event.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, hey, we haven't had the Egg Watch. Where are we at? I heard that there were a bunch of grocery stores in Northern Virginia that were just out.
Oh, I don't know.
There are no eggs.
No eggs anymore?
There are no eggs. Eggs are a myth. It's communist propaganda. Eggs were never real.
Oh man, I conflated eggs with a song that has nothing to do with eggs. Yeah, in my head, and I had a whole laugh about it in my brain, where it was just like the song is I like bananas because they have no bones, and eggs don't factor into that song at all. I think we're at the end of this episode. Y'all, thanks for tuning in. And holy crap, tell a friend about us if you enjoyed this nonsense.
Tell a friend, deface a bathroom with our deets, join our Discord.
Yeah. We should have another episode next week, and then we're going to be taking a week off because I got to do a whole bunch of work stuff, and then I think we'll be back to normal. Holy shit.
New story this
Eggs
week.
are $5.19 right now. Here.
Because they have no bones.
Hey, it's the Low Life Podcast.
Do you know anything about hackers? You jammed the console Cowboys in cyberspace? Ever read Neuromancer? Ever experienced a new wave? Next wave? Dream wave? Or cyberpunk?
Go away, Baton!